the thing you have to relay is you have to make these owners and managers' jobs easier, right? So you can't be the handyman guy that goes in, and this is the whole reason why we started this business, is because we couldn't find anybody reliable who would take care of our customers and make our job easier. So as a manager in the HVAC company, if I sent a job over to ABC Handyman and he was late, or he didn't call the customer, or he didn't show up, or he did a bad job, or right, he wasn't taking care of my customer to the level that my customers used to, then it reflected poorly on me as the manager and as the business, and I wouldn't use that handyman again. So, you need to make, if you go in and you try to sell your services to this larger company, you need to make sure you're making good on what you do. You need to take care of their customers like it's their customers, not necessarily yours.
Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop. Here we go. Welcome back. Small Business Safari is in action again. Welcome back, adventure team. We got a great guest in studio today. He flew in all the way from Dallas just to do this in person with us. We have Ben Alexander from Hank's Handyman with us. Isn't that exciting, Alan?
It is, but I want to talk almost more about barbecue.
I know you
Texas
do.
Than
all right.
But you're not going to let me.
I'm going to let you in just a minute. So we're going to get going because I know there's a lot of handyman people that listen to this stuff. As you know, we're trying to make sure that you are successful when you go up to Business Mountain. As you're going up there, we want to make sure you're getting tooled up and make sure you can get up there. But before we do that, we've got to say cheers. Welcome in studio, Ben.
Cheers, Ben.
Ben's drinking it up with us, too. He's got a spiked drink. It's awesome. And we're going to drink Classic City Lager from Athens. But all right, Ben, before we introduce you, you're from Texas. They say that all the barbecue that comes out of Texas is the best. Go ahead.
Brisket is my death row meal, by the way. So if you do, if I commit a murder.
Pork ribs.
Is that the one? Pork ribs for you?
They're brisket right behind it, though.
I'm thinking double cheeseburger for me.
Double cheeseburger?
Double cheeseburger. All right. So what is the best technique for barbecue?
You were talking pellet smoker, which is almost sacrilege in Texas, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I'm a little reluctant to say. I really love my Traeger.
That's from my home state, Oregon.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Here we go again.
Yeah, there's some fantastic barbecue.
Is that a liberal smoker?
It's from the other side of the state.
Okay, good side.
Yeah.
All right, so you're admitted pellet smoker. Do you admit that in Texas to many people?
They're pretty popular in Texas to people who are busy doing something. I always just wonder how other guys have so much time on their hands to sit around and fan the flames for 12 hours.
That's true. Pellet smoker, you can set it and forget it.
All right. You're not trying to convince me. You're just trying to convince everybody from Texas.
No.
Now, when I get that hate mail that says pellet smokers are the worst, I'm just going to forward that crap right to you too.
I mean, it's literally the same conversation as I'm sitting over here looking at Milwaukee, Rigid, DeWalt, or Ryobi versus Ford or Chevy. It's pellet smoker or your hardwood smoker.
So Chevy, Milwaukee. I mean, I think we've.
Well, it's obviously Ford and DeWalt, but
so right now, house divided. Here we go.
And Makita and Ford F-250 diesel works fine for me, so I'm good.
There we go. All right, man, we got to get into this because we got a great story to tell. So Ben and I have been hanging out today. He flew in from Dallas. Check out what we do here at the Trusted Toolbox. It's been fun learning from somebody who's the same size as we are. It's exciting to hear how they've grown. But before you started this handyman business, what the hell did you do?
So my background, 22 years of heating and air conditioning. Went to trade school, worked startups on new construction, then went to a franchise for Clockwork, ran maintenance, service technician, sales technician, spun off a whole nother company for 8 years doing geothermal heating and air conditioning, spray foam, solar, and then linked up with a very large home service company in Dallas and worked with them, helped them build their HVAC company. 5 years. And then we spun this handyman business off of that larger home service company.
Man, it sounds like you had a great path to get there. Yeah, obviously staying in the home services business helps you set you up for success as you get started. But one of the things that you mentioned to me off air that I wanted to bring up was this your idea to begin with, or did this guy kind of invite you along and say, here's this opportunity, you want to go grab it?
Yep. So one of the owners of the larger service company, we'd obviously been having issues finding reliable home service providers, especially in the handyman field, to help us with what we called oops jobs. Plumbers, electricians. You're working in houses, you're dropping tools, you might bump a wall, step through a ceiling. Plumbers and electricians like to cut holes in walls for rewire, repipes, and replace valves and stuff like that. So we couldn't find anybody that was doing a good job taking care of our customers at the level that we were used to and our customers were used to. So, as a service manager of a pretty large department, the last thing I want is when we go in and screw up somebody's house is to now have to deal with the aftermath of sending a bad contractor in after us. So now we look like a bad contractor sending another bad contractor, and the scale just escalates. So we're looking around and doing our market research on Google, and we're like, man, the handyman world is empty. I mean, you have to have 75 reviews to be the top rated handyman in our market. That's ridiculous. So we just saw that it was just an wide open market and decided to go for it.
So I love that you said that, you know what, there are no good handymen out there. So, you know what, seems like a really easy business. Let's go ahead and get started with that, right? So it's been easy for you, right? The last 3.5 years.
Yeah, it's been a cakewalk. Yeah. Yeah. The last conversation we just had was not a cakewalk.
So that last conversation we just had, which is something that I put in my book. That's right.
You wrote a book?
Did I mention that I wrote a book?
Haven't mentioned it in quite a while.
I know. So it's time to bring it up.
At least a week.
From the zoo to the wild. Some of the great advice I got when I first started, and I put this in the book, was you don't know you're an entrepreneur until you have to get a check in the bank by 4:30 on a Thursday night to make payroll on a Friday morning. And I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And sure as shit, what happened to me? Not less than a year later, I was sitting there doing the same thing running. So Ben's been at it now for 3.5 years. And he said to his operations manager right before he walked in here, he said, I want everybody now to give me answers on what we're going to collect, what jobs we're completing, and if they're not going to be completed, how can we accelerate them to get them done? Because we're going to make payroll next week. And I said, listen, brother, I just did that earlier this year, and I've only been at it for 14 years. So
my response, I quit.
So you know what? Not everybody thinks this business is easy, but not every business is easy, right? That's probably the biggest thing. Everybody's got to think.
No business is easy.
Everybody thinks everybody else is always tonning it too. And I promise you, brother, that's not true. We all have to scrape, claw, get up there and get going with it. So this guy invites you on this journey, says, all right, Ben, let's go do this. And you said, like this guy, obviously he was a mentor of yours. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the key nuggets. I think one of the key things we've heard of people who have come on this show is that, you know what, I have this great idea and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to build it. And a lot of people get, hey, this is a good idea. You want to go along with me and do it? And the guy's like, all right, let's do it. And here we go. And boom, you picked a person first and then you picked the business second. And then you've gone off and done it and attack it. That's cool.
Yep. So, the part that I talk to a lot of people about is this is my third go at it at home service company. First two don't exist anymore.
Oh, boy.
Third time's a charm.
So there you go.
Hopefully it's not the fourth.
So there you go. Willing to be up there and open up and say that, I've started 2 different home services business that don't have to actually even exist now. And now I'm on the third one. Yeah, obviously you got that serial entrepreneurial bent. Did these guys just feed that ego, this mentor of yours, or is that something you're like, man, I've always wanted to do it, and these guys are giving me the outlet to go make it happen?
Yeah, so I think they knew my background ahead of time, and my second business as it was failing, they were kind of coaching me along through it and trying to navigate it, and they knew that it crashed and burned, and obviously I have that. Well, let's see here, I did one of those personality profiles. The whole company was doing it, and mine was, oh God, I can't even remember at this point. It was just a serial entrepreneur type profile. I think it was an enterpriser. It was my profile.
Does not play well with others in the corporate world. So
You're right.
I said, yeah, the more I get to know him, I was like, dude, this guy would absolutely be a caged tiger in the corporate world and be the guy that nobody wants to hang with.
Well, and I love the fact that serial entrepreneur, he casually talks about the fact that he's already had 2 businesses that failed. And what does he do? He just jumps right back in it again. And I think that's a great lesson for people who are thinking about leaving the corporate world and who are afraid. You might fail, but it's not going to kill you. You're fine. You haven't missed a meal. You still got a Traeger.
It's the same life lesson that you learn with every time you're going through a hard time. You're learning something, but you don't realize you're learning something. You're just in the stress of it, and you're just, I don't have any hair anymore, so you're pulling your hair out. But what you don't realize is a year from now, you look back on where you were a year ago, and you realize that every single thing that you went through was lessons if you were smart enough to reflect and pay attention to those lessons and be like, I learned the A, B, and C from that really hard experience. So I learned about good and bad business partners through both of those adventures. I learned about a lot. I learned about failure. I learned about,
Well, and I'd love to hear more about what you did. Okay, I'm starting my 3rd business. I'm going to make sure I do this time, or I'm not going to do that this time.
Don't do business with family.
All right, number 1, don't do business with family. We've talked about that before. Man, sometimes, you think you're going to be a good partner, especially with a buddy or a family member, and that is just a recipe
if you want to continue. If you value a relationship with that person, don't do business with them.
I like it.
Gold nugget.
Number 1, gold nugget right there. So what else did you learn going into that 3rd one?
I mean, like from a process standpoint, or
no, have a plan. Know what you're going into business for. Okay, so are you going into business, especially in Handyman? We're in several networking groups online where you have 2 different business plans. You have the guys who are leaving corporate world. They just want to be able to, replace their income, control their schedule, and they're not really trying to build a business. I know everybody's going to hate me for not saying that because, I have a company, I have a business. Well, if you're sick for 2 months, do you still have an income? If your answer is no, you don't have an asset that you can sell down the road. And that's a whole nother conversation. I could leave my company for a month and very rarely check in on it. And unless they run out of money or turn marketing off, they'll be fine.
Yeah, definitely building a business. That's definitely a different mentality. And Ben's talking about a group we're part of with a bunch of other handymen across pretty much the U.S. And there's a lot of 1 and 2 person shops. And I just saw a guy post in there that he says, I'm taking the rest of the year off with my family and I'll be back at it next year. And at first I went, man, I am so jealous.
That's right.
And then I sat there and went, well, wait a minute. Are they pulling in money? Because I like to take vacations too, as we brought up quite a bit. And I want to make sure that
I'm leaving that alone.
I know you did.
Yeah.
So that was good. Although I actually am working on, I got, now I have not just 1, but 2 trips to Vegas next year.
Oh,
yeah. In the first quarter.
Well, my team, they have learned that if I don't go somewhere 1 week a quarter, they don't want to work with me.
Yeah.
You get a little bitchy.
Yeah. So my first name is Michael. So they say I come to work as Michael instead of Ben.
Oh, nice.
So
Michael's showing himself.
Yeah, I've learned to go put myself in my office. I'm going to shut my door for a while and ground myself so I don't say anything that I'm going to regret later.
There's a good lesson.
That is a great lesson right there. I've said that too. Less Chris is probably a lot more in my company. And Deborah just mentioned that again today.
That's the second time I've heard you say that today.
Yeah,
actually.
Exactly. It's true. You got to know that about yourself,
Yep.
Know how to do it. But the difference between that being a solo entrepreneur who can't keep money coming in, whether you're a handyman or just even a solo entrepreneur, versus building a thriving, growing business that may be an asset that's saleable, that can provide even when you're not there. Different mindset, different mentality. And so that's what we talk about here a lot is if you're going to be that solo entrepreneur, okay, good. God bless you. That's awesome.
That's
that works for you.
Perfect. If that's what your plan is, you got to know what you want first, because every step that you're going to create, each one of those avenues has different steps.
That's right. So as you guys were starting out in this thing, again, starting from scratch, but had some benefits, what were some of the things that you could say, I hung my hat on that I knew I could grow quickly on?
Available assets essentially, because we were spinning this off of a fairly large existing company. I already knew that I had a marketing people I could reach out to. I had a database of customers. I already had a lead source by the other technicians from the other home service company. We didn't market for the first year at all. A year and a half, didn't spend $1. Primarily because we got in front of other home service company technicians who are actively in people's houses all day long, tearing crap up that we can fix. So we incentivize them to send us work.
So first of all, you can't see on the podcast is that you got 2 eye rolls from me and Alan.
Yeah, and they looked at each other.
And we did and went, oh my God, here we go. Didn't spend any money on marketing, but I had to start from scratch with nothing. But if you listen to this, listen again, because there is a way you can still do that. So
Correct.
Ben was plugged in to contractors that were doing it. Now they happen to be part of the same umbrella organization, but think about that. You could have done that anyway in any business you're in. Why don't you go think about other contractors who open doors for you for free?
Yeah, it's active marketing versus passive marketing. You can spend all this money and just wait for the phone to ring. You just actually went out and talked to people who you knew could be direct referral sources. And
Right.
if you find 20 people who can refer you on a regular basis, that saves you a ton of marketing money.
Right. So if you think about it, if I was to do this without that network and I was like, hey, I'm going to come to Atlanta and I'm going to start a location. Well, first of all, I wouldn't do that. I'd try to buy you first.
Yeah,
But anyways, there
smart
you go.
move.
But if I was going to go to,
I was going to start the more trusted toolbox, and then Chris slashed my tires.
I did. Yeah. We had a digital marketing lady on and he goes, well, what if I want to start the more trusted toolbox? I'm like, oh my God, you're trying to take me out already.
Yep.
And she starts jumping in, helping him. I'm like, and you're helping him. I brought you to the table. But back to that. If you were to start brand new.
yeah, I would go to the largest HVAC, plumbing, electrical company in my area. And I would try to talk to the owner because every single home service company needs a handyman, right? If they at least, if not anything, they're paying somebody to fix their oops jobs, let alone. But the biggest asset I'm about, I'll give them their oops jobs. And this is the deal I would make to the owner. Hey, let me talk to your team. Let me do some kind of referral program with your technicians. Say you got 40 technicians in your company. I want those 40 technicians to send me 4 or 5 jobs a day. And if you do that, whatever oops jobs you guys step through ceilings, whatever like that, I'll charge you at cost, right? Because I don't want the oops jobs from the company. I want access to their technicians. I want the referrals. And not only do I want the referrals, so if you got one technician, he's running 2 calls a day, 20 days a month, that's 40 homes he's in. So if he gives me 4 calls a month, 6, 7 calls a month, repeat business over and over and over and over. So it's not like I have one customer who's going to send me 1 referral every other month. I now have 40 technicians who are in 80 homes a month sending me referrals.
And so I think that part's the gold. And that's what he hit on is that if you're, regardless of your market, of course, I know the home services market, but regardless of the business you're in, find the people that can refer back to you and go find the biggest one and go in there and say, look, I'll do this at cost. You just let me come in and talk to you guys on your sales meetings or in your technician meetings or whatever meetings you have. Let me give you my cards. Let me tell you guys how they can benefit. Let me show you what a referral program looks like. That's genius marketing that you didn't have to spend $1 on.
Yep. Now, the conversation we had right before we got on this little podcast here is that
big 6-continent podcast.
Big 6-continent podcast, not little.
We never even
In the
discussed
top
how
10.
many people we're talking to.
You're talking worldwide, baby.
Don't tell me.
All right.
It's just the 3 of us.
All right. I'm sorry. All right.
This little podcast.
All right. It's still a little podcast. All right. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So the thing you have to relay is you have to make these owners and managers' jobs easier, right? So you can't be the handyman guy that goes in, and this is the whole reason why we started this business, is because we couldn't find anybody reliable who would take care of our customers and make our job easier. So as a manager in the HVAC company, if I sent a job over to ABC Handyman and he was late or he didn't call the customer or he didn't show up or he did a bad job or right, he wasn't taking care of my customer to the level that my customers used to, then it reflected poorly on me as the manager and as the business. And I wouldn't use that handyman again. So, you need to make, if you go in and you try to sell your services to this larger company, you need to make sure you're making good on what you do. You need to take care of their customers like they're it's their customers, not necessarily yours.
Well, and it's such a powerful why. When you go in and talk to the owner of the HVAC company or wherever you're going, you're like, the reason why I started this business is because of this reason. This didn't exist and it drove us crazy. That's so powerful. Yeah.
You've hit on that. I think that's a great one too, because if you're going to make my life easier, then I'm all ears. And then the other thing is proving it, because one of the things Ben found out when he showed up here today on December 7th is that about a month and a half ago, he said, "Hey, I'd like to come visit your place." I'm like, "Sure. All right, here's my 2 dates." He goes, "All right." I said, "December 7th works for me." He goes, "Okay." And then the week before Thanksgiving, he goes, "Here's my tickets." I'm like, "Oh shit," he called my bluff. He goes, "You didn't think I was going to show up." Well, let's talk about that. Because in our world, when people say they're going to do something, a lot of times they don't. And just by doing what you say you're going to do puts you in the top 10% of any
1%.
maybe one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you actually show them that you can do it and make their life easier. Then they go, "Huh, you know what? You made my life easier." And that customer's going to come back and use me for my HVAC services or plumbing or whatever I've got to do, what I'm best at.
I think what you guys are doing, though, is so cool. And I think it's worth taking a step back and talking about it for a second, because somebody who's in business and you feel like you're by yourself, or somebody who's thinking about getting into business, and you look at anybody who's in the similar space as the competition, even though you guys are in separate markets. And yet, Ben, you reached out to Chris and just said, and I don't know why, I'd like to know why you reached out to Chris in particular. And the fact that you're getting together, Chris is spending time with you, you're taking time out of your schedule to get together. You guys are going to cross-pollinate. I'm dying to know what you've picked up from each other, but I just think what has happened today is just one of the coolest things. It's almost like you only see that in certain industries, I think, and it should be more common. But Chris talks about how helpful entrepreneurs are, but you see it in the brewing space. Brewers are really collaborative, even in the same market. But talk a little bit more about what made you reach out to Chris and what you guys have learned from each other today.
Yeah. So, when this idea came along, I had looked around through networks and everything. I was like, I need to find somebody who's doing this, doing it well, doing it at scale. And I want to go see what they're doing. I want to learn from them. And I could not find anybody, which is odd, because I have, over my 22 years of HVAC, I've been all over the country in different HVAC home service companies. And we open up. There is no hiding. I am transparent as can be, because there's no college to learn home services. You have to learn it from the people who are doing it. And most successful entrepreneurs in home services, if you ask, they'll let you come. They'll show you. But you have to put your foot in the door and you have to show up.
Show up and say what you're going to do. And then, yeah, I think, obviously I've said that before. I'm willing to help anybody who's willing to listen. I've done it before. I remember a handyman who came up to me from Tucker and said, "Chris, how do you do this stuff?" And he's looking at me and I said, "Well, here, you want to look at my books?" "What? You're going to show me the book?" I'm like, yeah. What we do is really freaking hard, man. Of course. Go ahead. Look, there you go. See that bottom line? Yep. It's that tight.
Yeah. And I think what people don't understand is I can show you my pricing. I can show you how I pay guys. Implementation it is extremely difficult, because people think that you could just go out and just go, "Okay, well, here's the price." And there's not. What most people don't understand is perceived value, right? So just like a Kia, and I know Kia is not what it used to be, and a Mercedes are both a vehicle, and they're both a car, and they'll get you point A to B. But, Neiman Marcus and Walmart, they both sell clothes. Why is somebody willing to pay Neiman Marcus prices for a shirt versus Walmart prices
I'm
for a shirt?
looking at you, Chris.
Oh boy, here we go.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Neiman Marcus. Here we go.
So
he's going to tell you a great story. Alan has a great Neiman Marcus story.
It's Nordstrom's.
Oh, Nordstrom's. That's
we,
right.
we keep dropping this hint, but we'll save it for another podcast.
All right.
What I want to know is, has this been worth it? And what have you guys? I mean, it seems it's.
And I'll take my. I'll go in the sound booth and just go. I'm not going to listen for a minute. Go ahead.
I just think it's such a cool thing that what you guys are doing. I mean, are your businesses more similar than you thought, or are
they're quite a bit different?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'd say we're going to market a little bit different.
Yeah.
Definitely the operational piece is different. I think for me, it was worth it to listen how an HVAC plumbing electrical company, that's the big group that they came out of, how they look at Handyman. And I think the one thing, that maybe, I don't know. I'll let Ben answer on what he thought he picked up here. Maybe he didn't pick up a thing. I don't know. But we did feed him Chick-fil-A biscuits in the morning. So I got that going
I think
for me.
Ben's probably going to take a lot more vacations.
I didn't eat them.
Oh, Chick-fil-A.
What?
There's a gold nugget. Chick-fil-A biscuits, baby. Oh, well, those are,
They're good.
Mm,
I could pop 4 of those in a moment
yeah.
without even thinking about it. But all right, I'll let Ben answer if he thought it was worth it.
Well, I'll tell you what I think is worth it. And anytime I have any of these visits, I think the relationship is actually worth more than the data. Just for the fact that, I can see this as something that Chris and I can meet quarterly and learn and grow from each other. Also, it's lonely sometimes as an entrepreneur or the top of your organization. Sitting here trying to bounce something off him like, oh my God, we can make payroll next week. Like you can't go say that to any of your employees.
No. Yeah. In fact, as you were saying that, that to your ops manager, get that number, I was doing that, and Ed, who you've met today, that was my mantra about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, because especially with my remodeling team, it's very chunky in the payments, and our cash flow was really screwed up. These guys weren't collecting when they were supposed to collect. Even though I thought we had a process, I didn't have it clearly documented. Then when I did, they weren't following it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, look, if I don't get paid, you're not getting paid. And Ed pulled me aside and said, you got to quit saying that, because you think they're hearing you and they're not hearing one word, because they're like, but I always get paid because you've never missed payroll in 14 years. I'm like, well, I got to do something. And I'm sick of being the one who's the only guy. In fact, Ben said the exact line.
Amen.
I'm sick of being the only guy who's worried about cash flow. And he said, well, you got to find another way to say it to them. And so that's what we had to work on. And that's what we've done, is that this is the non-negotiable. It is this amount when we start, is this amount a significant completion of phase 1, this amount of significant completion of phase 3. And there's the punch list you can leave at the end. And if you don't hold it, then you are not going to be here anymore. And then you will be without a paycheck. And so then it stopped.
Scorched earth.
I think my other nugget that I picked up, because like I told Chris when I got here, I always try to find a nugget. So we do payments on the remodel side, a third on halfway, and remaining on completion, which leaves a third of my money just floating out there. You guys have maybe 5 to 10% left right before you're done. I was like, man, I need to redo my terms.
Yep,
because
that's a big one, because that's where I thought I had the process. I thought I laid it out. I went 30 up front, and today we're at 40 up front when we start. We're at 30 at significant completion of milestone 1. That's at 70% of pay. And then we do 25% and then hold back 5. And that, because if you said the last third is based on your 100% satisfaction, there are people out there who play games with you, and they'll be like, well, I'm not happy.
Those are my customers.
Yeah, that's right. Mine too. Yeah. Well, brother, we're talking to the same people. I don't care if they're in Dallas or Atlanta, but that's where we've had to change it. But when you set that expectation up front, it definitely changes the mindset. And it's helped. It helps with cash flow, because, again, going back to it, you're the only one who's responsible for this. You got to find a different way to tell them. It's so hard, but that's one of the things we bounced off each other today. I think
my exact words were, why am I the only one with a sense of urgency over this?
I know that feeling.
Where's the sense of urgency, y'all?
Because we always get paid, and you can make all that money. And that's why I was telling Ben too, as I'm part of a mastermind group who, there's a study out there that says that if you have employees and you start sharing your top line books, and I think maybe we talked about this before, but I'll talk about it again. One of the guys I know who ran a very, very large company, 25 million in annual revenue. He was showing the top line revenue number and showing the expense line items to all of his employees, doing the open book thing. And it basically backfired him within a year. And it's because of this study that he wasn't aware of, that I wasn't aware of, and we listened to it. And the study says this: and when you show employees these numbers, and you're a small business, and a small business defined as obviously 50 employees or less, or whatever the government calls it, they automatically think of that 25 million that was coming in. How much did he think that owner was putting in his pocket? 40%. 40% of 25 million. And I can't do that math in my head, but I can promise you, if I saw 4%, I would be thrilled. And they just did not know that. So it actually backfired on him. It actually, people were turning, and then people were not moving as fast as he thought. He thought he had built this great culture, and he had to take that basically transparency off the table and reevaluate and basically come clean. And even if you sit there and tell them, look, for every $100 there's coming in, Chris is lucky if he sees 3 of them. They won't believe you. Well, in a bad year, I'm only seeing 3 of them. And I'm lucky if I get to 10. I don't care.
I've done that before.
I'm doing all the work, and they just don't buy into that. So you got to find other metrics to be transparent, because they just won't buy into that. And that's such a hard concept, because you want to be open and clear, but they're just not buying in.
I have literally opened the financials in front of a team meeting, in front of the whole entire company. I actually opened the bank account. I said, this is our operating account. Y'all see that? Yep. Okay. That's good. Of course, I showed them when it was bad.
Yeah, of course.
Because when it's good, it just means I haven't paid all my bills yet. Don't worry. Payroll's coming out. Right? Government. Uncle Sam's hitting me for 18 grand today.
Yeah.
So,
that was the other thing that hit him up. Yeah. When the IRS comes a calling, you can't say no.
Yeah. Our IRS took some extra taxes out of our account today. 18
They're
grand.
so nice.
Yeah. I didn't know it was coming. Surprise.
Hey,
Merry Christmas.
being an entrepreneur.
Speaking of
is
people
so
you
much
can't
fun.
get along with, and that's why I want to get into this a little bit more too, is I told the team this morning, I said, you know what? I'd rather fight the IRS right now than Google, because Google is almost impossible to fight with. And what's happening with Google now is they've changed some algorithms, and they have this thing called AI, which is a really fancy term for artificial intelligence. And if you know it better than I do, thank you. Please DM me so I can learn from you about how to do artificial intelligence. That's customerservice.freak on Instagram, or you can hit me up at Chris at the Trusted Toolbox, because I want to know what the hell AI is and how you're going to help me with it. Anyway, we tried to get to 600 reviews in Google, and we kept adding 10, and then boom, 4 go away. And I was telling Ben that story this morning, and he said, oh my God, I got a better one. He said, and so I'm going to let you tell the story. So when you fight Google, you get all these reviews in. They're real reviews. You're doing it the right way. You're doing everything above board. You're doing out there. You're making all these things happen. You put all these reviews in, and then what happens?
They make them vanish.
Goodbye.
15, 20, 25, 30 at a time.
Why?
That?
Why?
We're about, I don't know. For whatever reason, the AI doesn't like them, or they think they're fake, or whatever it may be. Now, in some cases, I always tell people, or I'm in these big groups, people are like, hey, John needs reviews. Everybody log in and give John a review. I'm like,
Yeah.
Everybody do not log in and give John a review. Please go home tonight, actually, or over the next 30 days, all you guys give John reviews from somewhere else, not all in the same room, because the algorithm will find all that and dump all those reviews.
How about that one? That's what you're fighting with Google. Google took my My Business page down because I was getting certified as a Google Guaranteed, or what we call LSA, but it puts you up the top. I'm getting certified. I'm getting that all taken care of. And however this all worked, boom, they shut down my My Business page. Did they tell me?
No.
Nope. Could they tell me why?
No.
Did
they answer their phone when you called?
There is no phone.
No, it's all email.
In fact, you even it wasn't even an email. We had to send in a request. And did they answer the request?
No.
Did my My Business page come up 3 days later? It did. Did they tell me why? No. Why was it violated?
Don't know.
Still don't know to this day.
You won't know.
You'll never know.
God, that's frightening.
Isn't that frightening?
Yeah.
You're like, because you think, oh my God, what have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? I've done something wrong. Tell me what I've done wrong. I feel like I'm in A Few Good Men. Hell, tell me what I did wrong. They didn't tell me. I did nothing wrong, and they shut you down. So Google is so hard to work with when it comes to that, especially in the home services world. My Business page, that's gold for B2C. And I was just told another guy, and he goes, "Well, yeah, I'm kind of B2B." I'm like, "Yeah, you're really not. You need to get your My Business page up, because that is so big. But you're fighting this entity that is so." As you guys have grown now 3.5 years, you've grown clearly way quicker than I have. You've scaled the business. You've been able to run it up, and we'll talk about the scaling procedures underneath. But what have you done to market? Because you started out year 1, 0. And today, what percentage and where are you putting your money today?
Yeah. So, today we're getting calls from everywhere. We get calls from repeat customers now that we have repeat customers, calls from trucks, calls from neighbors. We get neighbors approaching our guys at Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever we may be. We're getting calls from Facebook, business networking groups that I have put myself in. Oh, man. We still get referrals from all those technicians every day, all the time. But, as you scale, you eventually run out of calls and you need more calls. You got to feed the beast. We're needing about 500 calls a month. And so that's hard. So we went into PPC, so pay-per-click on Google. Relatively okay success. The leads were expensive. The volume wasn't there. I think PPC is fading, and Google's is focusing more on LSA and Google Maps locations and stuff like that. So we hopped on to LSA because that was fairly new. There wasn't any.
What's LSA?
Local service ads. So
that's the thing where you're at the top of the monopoly board and it says Google guaranteed service provider. And they opened up the handyman category about a year ago, which it wasn't open up until about a year ago. And when you get in there, obviously the barrier to get in is pretty high. You have to be in.
No handymen are there, by the way.
Yeah. Well, in Atlanta, some other people have jumped on it. So
I was the first.
Yeah, I was the first in, but this morning I pulled it up for my team, and sure enough, there was 3 of us up there.
So you're back to slashing tires?
I am. I'm taking out everybody else who doesn't say the trusted toolbox. And even if you have more, the trusted toolbox. Well, even if you stole my logo, and by the way, I'm coming for you, big boy. You're not listening to this podcast. I know you're not because you're not a businessman, but I'm going to absolutely take that wrap right off your truck.
What, the more trusted toolbox?
Oh, here's a little story I didn't know about.
Oh, yeah. So a guy in Marietta stole my logo. Not the trusted toolbox logo, told my entire color scheme, took the toolbox part out of it. Same everything except my toolbox.
Well,
and I'm like,
is it copyrighted?
It is copyrighted.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can't find them because I couldn't get the number.
It's a lot easier to throw a Molotov cocktail and the sucker in the middle.
Yeah, you know what? Doing it right and doing it legally. Or call my Uncle Tony.
I wouldn't worry about
Buffalo.
it.
Hey, Tony, I need a favor.
The odds are not in his favor.
I don't think he's around anymore, but it did. I ran across this. I ran across this guy. I was driving down the road. I'm like, what the? I started chasing him down.
That's not my truck.
I'm like, holy crap, what's going on? You stole my colors. You stole my lettering. You stole everything.
You sure you was an ex-employee going on a joyride?
No, because it wasn't my trusted toolbox logo and everything. Yeah, no. Gotcha. Speaking of joyrides, yeah. So no, back to Google and doing that. So pay-per-click, Google guaranteed, or LSA, that's what they call it behind the scenes. To customers, it comes up and says Google guaranteed. Those have been good for you. That's helped you drive the numbers, get the numbers up.
Yeah. So I will tell you, before you start doing any of that, the first question you should ask yourself: who is the highest rated, most reviewed handyman on Google in my service area? You should know that. You should know that. To me, it's Mr. Handyman of Dallas. And
not anymore. It's not.
No. When I started, I knew what his number was. I knew what my number was. My goal was in 60 days to smoke him off the map. Whatever it cost me, whatever I got to do to get my team, contest, whatever, to get the reviews.
Yep.
And that's where I learned that I was so frustrated. I beat him, and then Google took some of my reviews. And then I was like, what? And I know they were on to what I was doing because he had a certain number over like so many years. And then all of a sudden we were gaining on them, and they started like getting a lot more reviews. And then once I smoked them, their reviews started slowing back down. I was like, yeah, you ain't catching me.
There you go.
Yep.
It's again, algorithms, AI, all that stuff.
You have to own digital. You need to be the highest rated, most reviewed handyman on Google, whatever it takes. Get the reviews, ask for the reviews. If you're not, then LSA is not going to send you the traffic you need.
That's a gold nugget. If you're in the home services industry, if you're in a local service serving customers, if you're not the highest rated, go figure out how to do that. If you're B2B, I get it. Okay. Probably Google reviews, not as important. And definitely the Google My Business page, not as important. But that's a gold nugget to go out there. If you're not doing market research at least once a year, and if not quarterly, going out there to see who's up against you and see how you rank against them. But if you're getting in the market,
reviews
and read them.
Read the bad reviews. I actually read the bad reviews before I read the good reviews. I love reading.
Do you respond to them regularly?
We respond to them every single day.
Okay.
I have somebody who's in charge of that, and they respond every day. Respond to every review, good, bad, ugly.
So I'm still not willing to relinquish that one. I still do them.
So
because I want to see them, because I take great pride in when they're great, but also I want to see if there's any bad ones.
I still read them.
Knock on wood. I still go in and review them, and I'll say some things, and I'll do it myself because not a guilty pleasure, but it's finally a time where you get to sit there and go, you know what, your team did well. And I love those reviews. We actually, Ben and I talked about this. I love it when the review doesn't say anything about me. It says everything about my team, from the time they called in to the time my estimator went out to the time Deborah scheduled them to the time my technician showed up. This was a professional organization, which is all the stuff we preach in our company. And I love it.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
I read every single one of them, but I don't.
The problem
reply.
is, though, is you bleed all night long if you get a bad one.
All night long, I am up and I'm just sitting there. I'm plotting. I'm trying to figure out who they are. And I'm trying to figure out if I can go burn their house down legally. And I'm trying to figure out if I can slash their tires legally, of course. No, but you're right. You stew on it. You're like, man, what went wrong?
So if I earned it, if we earned it, we earned it. So,
well, that's a much more mature response than
okay,
mine.
It is.
no, but seriously,
Younger, smarter, more mature.
the ones that really annoy me are the ones that said we were too expensive and they didn't do any work. That's like literally going to the steakhouse, going, well, you guys are overcharging for steak. It was good, but that's just ridiculous. I hate those reviews. It's like, you didn't even use us. Just because you couldn't afford us doesn't mean that we're not a good company. Well, those keep me up at night and make me mad.
So one that makes me mad but doesn't keep me up at night is I literally have one that Google will not remove. It says the fish was bad and the vegetables were spoiled.
You should have
used
fresh fish, Chris.
I should have.
Yeah.
But you're right. The one I couldn't stand is they didn't respond to my request. I finally had to call them, and then they told me they did not work in my service area. They need to work in my service area. 1 star. I'm like, so I researched it all. She called at 8:00 at night, 8:30 at night. We don't have overnight answering service because I found that didn't work very well, because a call that goes answered poorly is way worse than a call that goes unanswered. So she left voicemails. We went to call her back. She didn't pick up. We finally got her at 10:00, and because she called back in, and we said, "I'm sorry, we don't service your area." That was it, and so that's 1 star, even though we called her back.
So Ben, what do you do for your after hours calls?
Answering service.
You do?
Yep, they answer at Hank's Handyman Services. They take the message, email it to us. We call them back in the morning.
So are they good?
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah, I tried it, and it just went so bad. That I was.
Were you trying to get him to kind of walk through a bit of a sales process on the phone?
did. Yeah, I was trying to do the sales
that would
process.
Be devastating.
Yeah, and it was.
I think if that was if we had to do that, I would just have an answering machine or.
So we had the voicemail. So I just do that, and I found that it's working pretty well. People have said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're doing it." So I did the analysis this year earlier on, and I'm not willing to pay for the answering service right now because I don't see the benefit. I think a lot of people, and then Ben and I talked about this earlier, in the handyman business, I thought going into this thing that we would be overnight, nightly, and weekend work all the time. And I found that nobody wants you in your house then, and nobody wants you in an emergency service. And why would you call a handyman if your hot water heater blew up? Why would you call me? Number one, you think I'm cheaper. Well, I'm not moving that fast. Call a plumber, baby. Those guys are the ones who are going to figure everything out way better than I am.
Yeah, I just figured after 22 years of being on call and having on-call technicians, being an on-call technician myself and heating and air conditioning, I don't want it no more.
Yeah, it's turned out that way. It's very 8 to 5. Well, we do 8:30 to 5, but we'll let people do let us in their house on Saturdays, but about half of our staff does it. And so that's been a really wild thing for me to learn because, again, getting into it, I thought on-call emergency stuff, and it didn't happen that way.
For you to scale that fast, you have to find good people. I'm sure you guys talked about this quite a bit. It's a big part of Chris's book.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about this too much, actually. I think we have. We vaguely talked about recruiting.
Oh, let's chat.
Yeah. Let's do it. We're on the podcast. We're in it. Let's talk about it. How do we recruit for people who don't want to work? Did I put that right?
Pretty close.
So this has been a very difficult learning curve for me. As of August, we had 7 handyman trucks. We now next week or two, man, that's your 7th beer.
Yeah, baby.
All right.
Well, this is so good. I'm having fun. Hey,
yeah,
it's drinking while learning. It's called edutainment.
Yep.
Thank you.
So we did talk about recruiting strategies, and I find that most people have a recruiting strategy of, hey, I posted an ad. Now I'm going to sit back and wait. So for somebody really, really good to see my ad in the sea of ads and apply for my company. That does not work at all. So what works for me is going through resume databases, looking for certain keywords, painting, carpenter, tile, handyman, whatever, and looking for the guys that have the background that I want and actively pursuing them, calling them, texting them, inviting them to apply.
So do you do that personally, or do you have somebody do that for you?
I used to do it at night.
Attaboy. Okay.
You know, the whole I'm getting rich owner that I just come into work and really don't have to do too much.
Right. What do you mean?
Right.
When you say at night, you mean like between 4 and 5?
Yeah. You
Not
know,
between 10 and 1?
not you know, 9:30 p.m. to 11 p.m.
No, that's
You
that is a gold nugget, because you're trying to grab people who they're probably not looking for a job. A lot of our guys in this business have probably don't even have a resume.
Most of them are not looking for handyman work. They
Yeah.
have prior skills relating to handyman work, but they're looking for something else. So getting them in the door, being able to talk about our company, what we do, selling ourselves, and has really helped. Most of the people were looking for something else, but they didn't necessarily know what they were looking for.
So all of your people then have a resume, because you and I have talked about this, Chris, in the past. Your folks don't.
No,
If they don't have a resume, I skip them.
I don't. I go for them because I want that lone wolf. Back to that concept I talked about, and this is one where you're right. We haven't talked about it, so let's get into it. I won't skip the guy without the resume, because he may be that lone wolf who's been out there being a handyman, been able to forage for himself and get jobs, word of mouth, doing his thing. And he's really good at what he does. He just doesn't have the business acumen to kind of make the business happen. I'm willing to take a shot on him. And honestly, 2 of my longest tenured guys did not have resumes. One of them worked for his dad for years and years and years. Dad retired. He's still here. He's still our number one handyman, number one requested handyman. And he's the one who came in and said he applied, and I said, all right, let's call him back. And I said, I called him back and he didn't answer. And I'm like, this guy isn't really, he's going to do the same thing everybody else does, ghost me. He shows up out of the blue at the office.
You're hired.
I'm like, that's what I did too. I'm like, yes. Okay. I mean, we don't even have to talk. No, I went, okay. I had to put him through the paces. Right. But he's one. And then another one, he was a crown molding guy. In fact, Ben just met him today, guys from Louisiana. He worked for a company for a while back in the 90s and then went out on his own. And because he's such a great carpenter, he did good, but he just doesn't like doing the sales stuff. And he came in and there was this huge gap. He actually had his wife put together this resume. I'm like, it says you haven't worked for like 10 years. He goes, well, I've been working for myself. I'm like, all right, let's talk. He goes, well, I don't know. I guess I'll do this till something else comes along 7 years later. So it works, but you got, that's a sixth sense thing that I can't explain. The resume thing, I like it, especially in today's world. But even with resumes, when you call them and then you set it up and they talk to you, and obviously you're pretty authentic, and you set up a time for them to come in and talk to you in person. What's the percentage of people who show?
30%.
It's a good number. I was running at 0 for a while. And then because of the pandemic coming out of it, but yeah, I would say in the beginning, 3 out of every 10 that, I got to 4 or 5 out of 10. I was like, oh, that's a good week. That's a good week.
Yep.
And now the pandemic hit and these guys, I don't know what happened. These people, and I know they want to work. I just think the work came too easy, and it was easy to fall out of bed and become a handyman. And I think what's happening now is things are tightening up, coming to the end of 22. I think they're going, it might be easier to have somebody else find and forage, and then I can go out there and take care of business.
Yeah. So this is going to be, I think the next 12 months is going to be a really great time for hiring, but a very difficult time for being the lone wolf as far as handyman business goes. Because, if you, for example, have a market of a million people, let's do it for easy math. You got a market for 1 million people. Well, economy's booming, things are going great, everything else, right? So you got, at any given time, you got 100,000 people needing something done at their house, right? Work for everybody. Okay. But you reduce that by 50%, maybe you only have 50,000 or 5,000 people looking for work. If you're just working straight off referral and you haven't already tried to plan for, hey, what do I do if I need more jobs? Do I have an online presence? Can I turn things on and off to get new customers? So if you don't plan for that when you don't need it, and then you're trying to plan for it, as well as I do, it takes months to get the phones to start ringing on certain marketing
Exactly right.
revenues.
Yep.
So, the biggest thing is like companies like mine or yours that we can spend money on marketing. We have perceived value and stuff. If there's 5,000 people a month, for example, looking for a handyman, they're going to find me more than they find, the one guy in a truck. And I don't know this, but I assume most your guys are guys that are stepping into this, or are, one or two guys that work with them. You need to be planning. You need to be working on your marketing strategy last month. Well, 3 months ago.
Exactly right. In fact, I'm sitting here in December as we start to slow down. We're busy running into the Christmas season, but the phones are starting to slow. In January and February for Dallas and Atlanta markets slow. So we know cyclicality in the business, and you know that. But for me and some of these advertising vehicles, I'm signing up for annual contracts to be in a couple books, to be on a website, to get the calls. And, of course, I can probably negotiate my way out of them if I had to, but that's not the way I've ever rolled. But I'm committing to big spend when I got no money coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not the money that we'll have in the spring and in the summer and the fall. And back to your point, these guys don't plan like that. They want an easy life. They want to know they can come in there, show off their artistry, be a lone wolf, and join. And I think that's with any gig economy worker. I was on another podcast saying the same thing I don't care if you're a computer programmer. If you're a computer programmer skilled in a certain skill set and a certain name that would work, he just wants to know that he can come in there, make bank, and do his thing, and not be bothered, and get to do it. And if it's easy and you make life easy for him, he'll stay.
I think you should hire the guy that stole your logo.
I should actually. It's very. And you know what? Actually,
It's very entrepreneurial,
very
very creative.
entrepreneurial.
Yeah, it's aggressive.
I should. In fact, instead of being
It's
mad at him,
lazy.
I should have went, "Hey, way to go!"
That guy's
He just-
lazy. I wouldn't hire him.
See,
He couldn't even come up with his
oh.
own picture of a toolbox.
I feel like right now I have one shoulder and the other shoulder. I have the good angel and the bad angel and the devil. No, kill him. No.
I think
you didn't say kill him, right? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, that was me. Whoops,
Slash his
Freudian
tires.
slip. Oh my god.
I think the primary difference is with our business models and why you would look at a guy, you want the lone wolf and I don't, is because, do you want that lone wolf to go be your estimator?
Yeah, no, I would not,
No.
because he would not want to do it. He doesn't know how to do it.
Right.
And-
You're looking for your lone wolf as the guy who goes and does the work.
Yeah.
So, my business model, and this is what's so substantially different, is my handyman sell their work and do their work.
That is a huge difference.
Yeah. So, with HVAC being my background, in my head, when I created this business, I'm like, I have a service tech. That's my handyman. I have a install crew. That's my remodel crew. Right. Because I use almost no subcontractors at this point. Now, in the beginning, I did because I didn't have the workflow to hire people, keep them busy full time and all that other stuff. But, I want a guy who is going to be an effective communicator. Somebody who's going to be able to talk to customers, relay value and relay pricing, and then also do the work, which has actually been very, very difficult because a lot of handyman guys have done, what do they call that? Where you're fixing up houses for make ready,
Flipping.
yeah, flipping, make ready, stuff like that. They've never really been customer facing. They've been like, hey, my company sold this job. I'm supposed to go paint these 3 rooms and fix these 10 things. So taking those guys and teaching them communication skills, pricing skills, stuff like that, that has been very, very challenging. I think it's working and it's been rewarding. And the larger we get, the easier that process is, because as they see that all these other guys are doing it, then their buy-in is greater, faster.
Yeah, he's definitely built a culture where he actually says that he lets everybody else see all the other jobs they're working on because it builds that culture of competitiveness.
Mm.
And what I found with my guys, the competitiveness is, when we get together in our training every other week, is that they get to see who's up in the board, who's the number one guy bringing in the money. But the thing that I've noticed with these guys is that they're competitive, but they also are the same guy that you see in Home Depot walking around going, nobody else in here is as smart as me. And so there is no competition.
But
I
that
don't
guy,
care.
that guy is your ideal estimator,
Yeah.
right? See, I really like that. My guys can see their dashboard on their department real time. So if yesterday I was number 1 and now I'm number 3, guess what? I'm not happy because I wanted to be number 1 and those 2 punks just beat me. So guess what I got to do? I got to go sell some jobs.
Now my estimators are supremely competitive.
Correct.
That one is 100%. It's game on. I absolutely want to knock your dick in the dirt. They are.
Yep.
I mean, I love it in a loving way, of course.
And that's how my whole
Can you say
handyman.
that, by the way?
Yeah.
Anyway, we digress.
But that's
yeah.
how my whole handyman department is.
Yeah.
I mean, there are guys like that because the lone wolf does not survive well in my business. Now, that's not necessarily true. The lone wolf is a remodel lead.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, that would work. Yeah, I think in your world, because the one thing, and that's the concept of the lone wolf. I just brought this up. When you bring your lone wolves in, and you got to see our training this morning, one of the things I don't do is lord over them with process and make them do it my way. I keep choking them down because I don't know if you know where dogs came from, but they came from wolves, and wolves became domesticated dogs, and domesticated dogs have everybody else solve their own problems for them. And I don't want to provide them with food, and I do not want to take them out to go to the bathroom, and I do not want to give them water. I want them to solve their own problems and bring it back to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why the culture, and you can see Ben's built a culture in his business that's different than mine, but it's definitely complementary, and it's interesting to see it. So that's where we I think really had a chance to share today and figure out different things. And it's been mind expanding, and it goes back to the other thing, and I know I'm rambling, but this one's big. Today I learned something. I wrote down a ton of notes. I'm on page 2 already. Tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and go, okay, I now understand it, because the adult brain needs one sleep cycle to fully comprehend. And I think we're going to do that. And just like this podcast, you got a chance to listen, get educated, hopefully got entertained, and then you get to learn and then go to bed, but not while you're driving. If you're driving, don't do that now. Just do it later. But tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up and go, man, Ben was smart. And Alan's okay. Chris, he's a moron. But anyway, he's still here. All right. We're coming to the end of the podcast. And Ben, we can't let you get out of here without telling us. Tell us a little bit more about how people can get a hold of you. They're in the Dallas market. What do you want to know? What do you want people to know about you?
If I can do it, you can do it.
Let's go. All right. That's Hank's Handyman in the Dallas market. Call him. You got a reliable handyman. Now for the final 3 questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
Good. Let's do it.
Uh-oh.
What is the favorite feature of your home?
Traeger.
Swimming pool.
Oh, he just came out of it. Traeger, and he went swimming pool. How about grilling in front of the swimming pool?
While drinking vodka. Yes.
Beautiful.
That is the trifecta. Having a drink on the back porch, smoking some kind of meat, and hanging out by the pool all day.
All right. So we already know your favorite meat was pork.
Ribs.
Pork
ribs. All right.
I actually don't like pork, but I do like smoked pork ribs. Which is weird.
And what's your favorite vodka drink?
Tito's.
Of course, it's Tito's. He's from Texas.
Man, I'm telling you what,
it's really Tito's and ice drinks.
Wow.
Like the flavored water with Tito's. Yeah, that's it.
Guilty. So I'm trying to drop some weight. I've been trying to do those as well. So I've been the lemonade ones. Hey, I'm down 10.
Yeah.
All right. Just for the record, I went and went and got went to my physical, and so you guys can't see me on this, but this is good. She goes, hey, your A1C is a little high. I'm like, okay, if you don't know what A1C is, well, welcome to my old world. And I said, well, how has my A1C been in the past? And she says, well, we haven't started tracking it until 16 months ago because you're now in the obese category. She says it straight face. I went, and I looked at her, and I jumped at her. I went, obese? She goes, yeah, if you lose 10 pounds, you'll be solidly overweight. I'm like, damn, lady, I'm 6'2", 230. I'm like, really? That's obese? Okay, I'm on. And so she's pissed me off. So yes, lemonade and iced vodka drinks now. And of course, 3 beers today. But okay, let's go back to this.
So are you still obese?
I am still obese. And my A1C did come down, by the way.
I think that was a jab, by the way.
Ouch.
But
so I didn't even talk about my favorite.
I have a feeling you shouldn't have told him that.
I shouldn't have. I'm going vegan.
Yeah, I'll see that.
That ain't happening. No. All right. So number 2, when you're out in the market doing things outside of your business, what is a customer service pet peeve of yours?
Poor customer service.
All right. What's poor customer service to you?
Depending on my location. If it's at a restaurant, it's not filling up my drink, making me sit there forever and wait to order. Pretty much that's it. Yeah, I cannot handle poor customer service.
So go.
No.
You're jumping in?
Nope.
You sure?
Just listen. Go ahead.
Just listening?
Yep.
Not filling up your drink. Like your Tito's drink? Or water?
Whatever it may be.
I'll
give the restaurant some slack the past 2 years, I guess. But
that's a hard business too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to start a harder business, which one, what would it be?
Oh my gosh.
I would never want to be in a restaurant business.
Right? I mean, as hard as our business is.
My first job, I was a cook at Dairy Queen.
Oh my God.
Horrible. I was 15. I think it was like $4 an hour. It was horrible. I've never worked in a restaurant ever since.
Oh my God. There you go. He's
Yeah.
been scarred for life on that one. Or burned.
Scarred.
Yeah. Grease fires for life. All right. Number 3. Give us a DIY nightmare story. Now, I know you probably have some contractor ones because we all do, but give us a DIY one that actually hit, and it hit hard at home.
Yeah. So let's see here. We had our pool dug a week or two before Christmas. I decided to, on December 26th, tear down all the Christmas stuff with our backyard looking like a mud bomb, rip up all the flooring, all the baseboards, and take out all the carpet and put vinyl planks and all new baseboards in. So my backyard looked like a bomb went off in the backyard. It had been raining for a week. I got I took 5 days off. I thought this was going to be a 5-day project. What is it, about 2,000, 2,100 square foot of it? And then I decided not to take the tile out. So I put a hardy board down and thin set to try to level the floor so I didn't have to use transitions. 3 days in, I was probably maybe 1 day in. So
oh boy.
I had to call a contractor friend of mine. He actually owned a handyman business at the point in time. And this is before this was even on my radar. I was like, hey man, I'm in trouble. What do you mean? Like, I only have 5 or 6 days to do this. I thought I would be to a certain point. I'm literally where I thought I would be done at the first day. I'm literally 3 days behind. And I have to go back to work. And my house is a mess. My wife is tired of being locked in the bedroom because I blew out the whole entire house. The dog got out. So she was in the backyard yelling at me, covered in mud, because, of course, every part of our house looked like a war zone.
Oh my God.
So he sent a carpenter and a helper and himself, and they came in 4 days with myself and 3 other guys to finish. I so underestimated
how
hard that job was.
So are you your number one estimator at your company today?
I don't leave the office.
Attaboy. Smart. Know your strengths, know your skills. That, you know what, we've had flood stories, we've had fire stories. But that one with you can just put that picture in your head with the wife screaming at you. That's unhelping.
No. Anytime I tell my wife how much something's going to cost and how long it's going to take, she just doubles and triples it. She knows
every
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
I love it.
Are you doing it? No, thank God it'll get done on time.
Right.
Yeah, actually, my wife now just calls the office directly to get people scheduled because she won't wait for me any longer, and she likes my team better. Oh yeah, no, do it. Just have her call right away. If you're listening, you should listen to this podcast. Ben's doing a great job, but go ahead and just call and just say, "I'm Ben's wife, and I like you a lot more," because my wife likes my team way better than me, and she lets me know that pretty much on a monthly basis.
It's because you're obese.
Because I am obese. All right. And with that, Fat Chris is out of here. Go out there, be successful. Hey, if you like this podcast, go out there, man. Just rate, review, follow us, check us out. Tell your friends if you like this. And if you don't tell anybody. But we got to keep going up that mountaintop. Let's get you up there. Let's be successful. Your definition of success might be different, but go make it happen. Until next time, we're out of here.
Cheers.